This is Jim and Masako Millard, our missionaries to Japan, Asia, Europe, and most of the world. Would you welcome Jim and Masako, please? So, back when I was a teenager in Eugene, I first met Jim. He was also a teenager at that time. And Jim has been, for many years, one of my heroes. And I want to tell you why. Because at that time, as a young man, he received a call from God to go and be a missionary to Japan. And he set his face toward that goal and has never veered from it, in spite of some incredible obstacles and hardships and difficulties. He has just maintained a steady course. God has used him and Masako in some amazing, amazing ways. And so, Jim, tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Well, this is my wife, Masako. This year is our 40th wedding anniversary. So we have 4 children, 8 grandkids. All 18 of us came over to the States for the first time in many years. And
all 18 of you flew over. Wow.
And so we're here and visiting some churches. And the main reason that we wanted to visit Life Center is to say thank you so much. I think it was in 1978 that first we came when Life Center was starting. There was a room of maybe 100 people, and we came. And from that time, Life Center has supported us over this last 40 years. And we couldn't have made it without you. This is our greatest supporting church, and we just really, from the bottom of our hearts, want to say thank you for your support for 40 years. It's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
And I also have to say very much thank you to Joe. Joe has been my spiritual older brother from the time I was in high school and has impacted my life in many ways. I was telling him I remember a Bible study he did next door to my house in high school. I remember what he taught on. But he's always been the model for me, for someone who loves Jesus, who's genuine. There's been no one that's been more encouraging, more supportive, and just thank you, Joe,
thank you, Jim.
Lena, many others here from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you go over in the 1970s, and I remember this very clearly, that you had this call to Japan, you were ready to go, and you couldn't find a sending organization that would send you. And so you created your own, Sunrise International Ministries, that started with you and Masako, and now?
And now we have 13 adult missionaries on our mission, and going strong. I also thank God for the privilege of serving him in Japan and in Asia. Japan only has about 0.2% who attend church.
0.2%?
Yeah, so it's still pretty slow going, but we believe that the sun will rise on the land of darkness, and the time for Japan is coming. We believe that with all of our hearts.
And your 4 kids are all involved in your mission.
They are, and they're the hope. We have great belief that God will use them very powerfully in Japan.
His kids are amazing, by the way. They're all bilingual and bicultural, all equally Japanese and American, and because of that, have a very unique reach into the Japanese culture.
Yeah, and they're passionate about Jesus.
Yeah, wonderful. So you're doing that. Now, you also did this thing, in the year 2000, Pastor Rick and I came over, visited you in Japan, we stopped in China, then we went and spent, I think, 10 days in Mongolia.
That's right.
And tell us about that work in Asia.
Well, in 1995, I went to Mongolia for the first time. From 1920 to 1990, Mongolia was part of the Soviet Union. All religion was banned, including Buddhism. When the Soviet Union fell in 1990, there were 5 believers in the country.
5 Christians in the whole country.
Yeah, in 1995, there was about 4,000. We began a program of training pastors and leaders. Joe was one of the first teachers. Now there's more than 200,000 believers in Mongolia out of a population of 3 million.
Woo.
And
That's awesome.
Their goal is to reach 10% of the population by the year 2020, and I believe that they'll do it, which is an amazing goal.
That is. And besides Mongolia, you've also done work where you're working currently in China. Where else in Asia?
China, Nepal, Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia, India, Philippines. I think I left out a couple there somewhere.
Oh, that's all. Yeah. No big deal. Just but what, 60% of the Earth's population, something like that, yeah. So, but now also, just recently, the Lord's opened a new door for you, and you're doing some work in Europe as well.
Yes, there's been about 10 million refugees who've come into Europe over the last few years. Many of them from Muslim countries where we cannot go, we cannot share the gospel, and many of them are open to the gospel. Many are coming to Christ from, Arabic speakers, Farsi speakers, and so God called us to do some of the discipleship training that we've done in Asia for teams of people that are trying to reach refugees, and they estimate there'll be another 6 million coming in the next few years. So this is, I believe, a strategic opportunity for the gospel.
Oh, that's wonderful. And one of the tools you use is something that you actually wrote. In fact, you've written several things, but this first one was called the Cross Bible Studies.
Yeah, a very simple tool about how to spend time with God and how to hear Jesus speak to you through it, and we have it in 20-some languages.
20-some languages being used all over the world now. Yeah. And you've written a follow-up for that as well that's just coming out.
Coming out.
Maybe this week.
Knowing God Bible Study.
Knowing God Bible Study.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
KGB.
Wonderful.
Knowing God Bible Study.
Yeah. The KGB. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
You can buy it at the Russian embassy. Yeah.
The Russian, yeah. There is a Russian version of it. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Well, as I told you, Jim's one of my heroes, and here's one of the reasons. Just a long obedience in the same direction. God called him to do something. He has been at it for 40 years. And as you just heard, God is using their ministry in some profound ways all across, not only in Japan, but all across Asia and across Europe. And it's a real privilege that we get to partner with you in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's say thanks to Jim and Masako. Thank you so much.